You know that moment when the entire world seems to stop, when the laughter and music around you fade into nothing, and all you can hear is your own heartbeat pounding in your ears. That was me, standing at the entrance of my sister's wedding reception, holding my invitation, smiling nervously, and hearing the words that would burn themselves into my memory. "Sorry, ma'am, your name isn't on the list." At first, I thought I misheard. Maybe they meant another Rachel. Maybe it was a typo. I laughed awkwardly, trying to play it off. No, it's Rachel, sister of the bride. Rachel, but the staff member just frowned, scanning the tablet again before shaking his head. "I'm sorry, there's no Rachel listed under family or guests." And then, before I could even open my mouth again, I heard a familiar voice behind me, calm, polite, but cold enough to freeze the air. My mother. Oh, maybe she wasn't supposed to be here. That sentence hit harder than any slap could. For a moment, I just stood there trying to process what I had just heard. Not supposed to be here. My mother said it so casually, as if she were discussing the weather. The staff member looked uncomfortable, shifting on his feet. I glanced at her, searching her face for some sign that this was a joke, but her smile stayed fixed, her eyes gleaming with the same quiet superiority I'd seen my entire life. In that moment, I realized something painful. This wasn't a mistake. This was intentional. "My name is Rachel. I'm 28 years old, and I'm the younger sister, the other one. Growing up, my sister Emily and I were close in age but worlds apart in how we were treated. Emily was the golden child, the straight-A student, the one who made my parents beam with pride. When we were kids, every family dinner was an ode to Emily's achievements. Emily won the spelling bee. Emily got another award. Emily made the soccer team. And me, I was that's nice Rachel. I wasn't bad at anything, I just wasn't her. I was quiet, observant, artistic. But in my family's eyes, being quiet wasn't interesting, it was forgettable. And over the years, I learned to fade into the background, to shrink myself so I wouldn't take up space she needed. Still, I loved her. She was my big sister. I defended her when she got in trouble, covered for her when she was late, lent her money when she forgot her wallet. Every time she hurt me, I told myself, that's what sisters do, you forgive. But forgiveness only works when it's mutual, and Emily never once apologized for the way she made me feel invisible. When Emily got engaged, I cried tears of joy. I helped her pick out her dress, stayed up with her planning details, listened when she complained about seating charts and caterers. She asked for my advice and I gave it freely. When the invitations came out, mine had a little note. "Can't wait to see you there," M read. So I bought a new dress, booked a hotel room, picked a thoughtful gift, and counted the days until I could see her walk down the aisle. For once, I thought maybe I'd finally get to be part of something special. But when the staff at the reception said my name wasn't on the list, when my own mother looked at me like I was some uninvited stranger, all that love turned into something sharp. Still, I smiled. I had to. My voice shook as I said, "There must be a mistake." But the staff didn't know what to do. My mother placed a gentle hand on my arm and said, "Sweetheart, maybe you're just confused. You know how details get mixed up." Confused, that word stung. It wasn't just dismissive, it was a dagger wrapped in silk. It told everyone around us that I was the problem, that I didn't belong. So I stood there, humiliated, burning inside while the party went on behind me. I could hear laughter, clinking glasses, the faint sound of a string quartet playing a love song. Everyone else was celebrating, and I was standing in the doorway of my own sister's happiness, unwanted. But after a few long seconds, something inside me hardened. I wasn't going to let them erase me, not tonight. I looked at the staff member and smiled. "It's okay," I said softly. "I'll just find my seat myself." He looked uncertain but didn't stop me. I walked past him, head held high, heart pounding, pretending not to notice the confused looks from guests as I entered the hall. The room was breathtaking, chandeliers, soft golden light, tables covered in white linen and roses. Emily stood at the far end, radiant in her gown, laughing with her bridesmaids. She saw me. Our eyes met for just a second. Her smile faltered, only slightly, then returned. She turned away. I felt like a ghost. I wandered between tables, forcing smiles, greeting family members who barely recognized me. Some said, "Oh, Rachel, you made it," as if I'd crashed the party. Others didn't even notice I was there. Everywhere I turned, I saw reminders of how much I'd given to this wedding. I'd helped choose those exact centerpieces. I'd found that vendor for the cake. I'd helped Emily decide on that playlist. And yet, here I was, unlisted, unwanted, and unacknowledged. I stood by the dessert table, pretending to nibble on a slice of cake just so I wouldn't cry. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the fork. I remember looking around the room, thinking, how could they do this? How could my own family make me feel like a stranger? But that's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the people who say they love you. I wanted to run out, to scream, to throw the invitation in their faces and demand an explanation. But instead I stayed, because I wanted them to see me, even if it made them uncomfortable. So I smiled. I walked around, I talked to old friends, I laughed at jokes. Every time a photographer passed, I made sure to be in the frame. If I was going to be erased, I'd leave behind proof that I was there. When Emily gave her thank you speech, she mentioned everyone, her friends, her in-laws, even her hairdresser, but not me. Not once. My chest tightened, my vision blurred, but I kept smiling. Because now I wasn't just hurt, I was awake. Something inside me shifted that night. The quiet, forgiving version of me, the one who always accepted being overlooked, died. In her place, someone new was born, someone who wasn't afraid to take up space. The next day, I noticed something strange. Emily had posted her wedding photos online, beautiful pictures, except one thing. I wasn't in any of them, not a single shot. Even the group photos I knew I stood in, gone, cropped, edited, erased. That was my breaking point. But I didn't want drama, I wanted clarity. I sent Emily a calm message, just one. "Hey, I noticed I wasn't in any of the photos. Was that intentional?" Hours later, she replied with a single line that said everything. "You looked out of place. It would have ruined the aesthetic." I remember sitting on my couch, phone in hand, staring at that message. My jaw tightened. My hands trembled, not from sadness, from fury. Years of being diminished, dismissed, and demeaned boiled to the surface. And that's when I decided, if she wanted her perfect image so badly, I'd make sure everyone saw what it cost. Over the next week, I quietly reached out to a few family members, my aunt, my cousin, even a couple of her bridesmaids who'd always been kind to me. I told them what happened. Calmly, factually, no dramatics, just the truth. At first, they didn't believe it. But then I showed them the texts, the photos, the invitation with her handwriting. Their shock turned into silence, then anger. Turns out, Emily had told everyone I couldn't make it to the wedding. She lied to save face, to explain my absence. When that truth came out, it spread through the family like wildfire. Not online, not public, just within the circle that mattered most to her. Suddenly, the golden daughter didn't shine so brightly. People started questioning her story, her motives, her perfect reputation. Her new in-laws were especially unimpressed. I heard from my cousin that her mother-in-law confronted her privately, asking, "Why would you exclude your own sister?" Emily tried to spin it, but the damage was done. I didn't gloat, I didn't need to. The truth had a way of shining on its own. A few days later, my parents called. My mother's voice was soft, uncertain. "Rachel, we didn't realize she'd gone that far, we're sorry." For the first time in my life, I heard those words. "We're sorry." I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. All I could say was, I just wanted to matter. A week later, Emily showed up at my apartment. She looked tired, her perfect composure cracked. She stood at my door holding a tissue, eyes red. "You told them," she said flatly. "I told the truth," I replied. "You embarrassed me." "No, Emily," I said quietly. "You embarrassed yourself, I just stopped covering for you." She sank onto the couch, tears spilling over. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. Maybe not, I said, but you did, and maybe it's time you felt what that's like. She stayed silent for a long moment before asking, "Are you happy now?" I shook my head. "No, Emily, I'm not happy, I'm just free." In the months that followed, I started to heal. Slowly, I built boundaries. I stopped being the convenient sister, the one they called only when they needed something. I found friends who saw me, valued me, respected me. My parents and I began to rebuild our relationship, but it wasn't easy. They had to learn what unconditional love really meant, not love based on performance or perfection, but love based on presence. And Emily, she tried in her own awkward way to make amends. It wasn't overnight, it wasn't perfect. But one day she called me just to ask how I was, not to talk about herself, just to listen. That small act, that moment of realness, meant more than any apology. Looking back now, I realize that night at the reception wasn't just a humiliation. It was my rebirth. Because sometimes, being pushed out is what finally forces you to step into your own power. No one can erase you without your permission. And the moment you stop seeking validation from the people who overlook you, you become unstoppable. So if you've ever been the forgotten one, the quiet one, the one who always gets pushed aside, remember this. Being invisible doesn't mean you're worthless. It just means you've been standing in the wrong light. And when you finally step into your own, they'll have no choice but to see you. If this story hit home, don't forget, your worth isn't defined by anyone else's approval. It's something you carry inside, waiting to be seen. So, if you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever had to prove your place, hit that like button, share your story in the comments, and subscribe for more stories that remind us. Sometimes, silence isn't weakness. It's the calm before the truth. Because in the end, the best revenge is finally being seen.